Gothic 1 Remake has added a lot to the original. The remake was originally developed on Unreal Engine 4, but they swapped to Unreal Engine 5 a year into development after the playable teaser was shown. The original demo was a bit rough, but the current version is basically unrecognizable. It's a completely different game at this point. They've also confirmed that the game will support options for upscaling like DLSS and FSR, though you'll still need a decently modern PC to run the game at higher graphic settings, of course. The current demo that is on Steam doesn't have DLSS or FSR, so that'll be something that is added later when the game actually comes out. Swimming has been significantly expanded and is now an actual skill that you can level up and get better at over time. There's climbing and climbing in very specific areas, and that is also a thing that you'll be doing in the game now. That's changed quite a bit. There's an economy that is more based on trade between traders instead of just between the player. So the trading isn't going to be player-centric anymore, and that'll change things quite a bit there. There's cut content that was added back into the game, which adds entire sections that were previously empty or bare bones and makes them fun to explore and adds more content. They've expanded the orcs, and now in the remake, they've added much more. You can learn about their culture, even do quests and earn their respect, and there will be more interactions involving them and different interactions than what was possible in the original. That is a very big change that not everybody will be happy with, but I like the idea of them expanding the interactions and allowing more exploration and more world building in the game. Some are worried that it won't make sense with what is supposed to be happening, or that they might be making the orcs too token-esque. We'll have to wait and see how that's handled before we really know what that'll be like. So now there is full simulation of the characters throughout the day. Characters have schedules, they move around the map. That's something that is really great. Before, you couldn't see the characters move in between camps and stuff like that, but now they actually do that, and you can find characters in between those camps on their schedules and that sort of stuff. There's around 25%, they said 20 to 25% new side content things, so that is a lot of expanded stuff. There are expanded options during the main quests. The game's narrative is a lot bigger, is what they said. They didn't expand too much on what that will actually be, but it does involve, having the additional options, and they have to make content that covers those options, right? There's pretty substantial iteration to the story. The story changes were worked on by Matthias Filler, who worked on the original Gothic games, so you don't have to worry about it just being by someone that doesn't know what they're doing. This is someone that actually worked on Gothic before. Combat has been changed quite a bit, but it's based on the combat of the original game still, so you won't be completely confused at what it's like if you play it now. They took a lot of feedback from the community about combat feeling a bit slow and clunky, and with new iterations, they've made it more smooth, and they've added some much needed improvements. Combat needs to be trained in order to get better over time. As your character has more training, they'll be faster and much more precise. You can do things like cancel your attack into a dodge or a block, which is something that you couldn't do before. The changes are very welcome, and the fact that they're listening to the community is really big. Combat has always been a bit clunky in the Gothic series, and really just Piranha Bytes games in general, so seeing that they're really attempting to improve the combat while still retaining the style is pretty huge. I think that'll be really good for people. They created an entire language for the orcs, so that is something that you'll notice as you're playing. This isn't just like nonsense words, it's nonsense words that have meaning to them, right? In the original Gothic, the game became more linear as you got towards the end, and in the remake, they've tried to keep it more open, with more options even towards the end of the game, so it won't feel quite as linear as it was in the original Gothic. Dynamic events have been added. Characters are more reactive to what is happening in the environment, for example, to the weather, and as things happen over time, NPCs will talk about those things happening, and they will act differently depending on all of those things happening. They used a lot of Gothic 3's art books as a reference for how things look, so keep an eye out for the remake to have some of those references, but a lot of the details from the original Gothic is referenced as well, obviously, especially in the characters. So don't expect it to look completely different, right? But be it will be different for sure. It's not going to be a one-to-one, right? There have been changes made to the various environments as well, like in dungeons. And they've also changed Zardas's tower. This was done so they could add more content to those areas and make them more fun to go through. And they've added a lot of variations to the armor, including more customization of the armor that you're able to get as the character, but also in the armor that each NPC is wearing. A lot of care has been taken with each aspect of the game, trying to keep it in line with the original, but also iterating on it to bring it up to modern standards and to add their own take and turn it into something even better than what was there in the original. As a big fan of the original developer, Piranha Bytes, I'm very happy to see that their game has been treated with this much respect and not just kind of throwing together something that is basically just a reskin and changing a bunch of things for no reason. It seems like they really took care to keep in mind the fans and what they would want, and actually actively talk to the community and try to get their opinion on things. So I'm pretty happy with what I've seen so far and with what I've played, actually. The game will be coming out on June 5th, 2026. That is now a confirmed date. I think that Gothic 1 Remake should be a lot better than I think a lot of people initially thought it was. Um, People were really down on this remake, and probably as they should have been, because the original demo was very rough, very, very rough. But now they've really expanded on it. I feel like there's only really two concerns that I have, and one is how well is this game gonna run? It runs kind of decently, but with some choppiness on my system, and from what I've heard from other people on other people's systems as well. So they've got to fix that before the game comes out, and that's usually the last part of making a game anyway, is optimization. So hopefully that's kind of what they're doing right now as they move into the release of the game. And then the other thing is, how good will the iterations on the side content and the main story be? Because you can definitely screw this game up. This is a game that has a ton of fans that are very diehard for it, and they have it's a good story as it is. You really don't want to mess with it too much, so it'll just depend on that, just a couple of things, and whether they can make sure that they modernize it without completely destroying what gave this game soul. Because I think this Gothic is a really cool series. I've always loved Gothic quite a bit, and I'm hoping that they do it justice. It seems like they are, and it seems like they've really thought about what they're going to do with it. They've made it super beautiful, so hopefully all of the systems and everything in it are beautiful as well. That is really it. So thank you for watching.